different, which is these English consonants and the English vowels, and how you can describe them and how you can give scientific descriptions to them. There's just one more thing I wanted to, this is also, I wanted to discuss this with you because one of you had actually mentioned this in a WhatsApp message. I don't know the name of the person because he doesn't identify himself there, but he has asked about this paragraph in What I Believe, in E.M. Forster's What I Believe. Let me just tie up all the loose ends, and then I'll go to consonants and vowels. So in What I Believe, there is this specific reference to Admiral Toma, and this is where we find that E.M. Forster is talking about his dislike of great men, of heroes, of placing people on pedestals and worshipping them, and talking about how Admiral Toma's success and failure. And he says that his failure is more complete than anything that is known, right? So, the implication, one person had asked me to explain that. So I just like to point out this, what he's trying to say is that completeness is something that is reserved, right, for only great men or heroes, or you can say a person who engineers a military coup, like, for example, Admiral Toma. So if he fails, it is a failure. If he wins, it is a victory. So his victory or his failure is a completion of the task that he had given himself, right? But he tries to sort of bifurcate, he tries to divide great men of this category, of the category of Admiral Toma, from the category of artists and lovers. So artists and lovers cannot know completeness in the same way as Admiral Toma might be able to see completeness. Because the implication in what he's saying is that so far as an artist or a lover is concerned, he's constantly evolving. He's constantly changing. He never comes to a point of completeness. So completeness is something which can be known only by military dictators or heroes or great men. Like in this case, his failure, Admiral Thomas is defeated in his purpose, so he fails. And his failure is complete. But so far as artists are concerned, and so far as lovers are concerned, they are the most creative category of people. And when you are creative, you can never reach a point of completion because you're constantly evolving. I hope you understand the idea, and I hope I'm able to make myself clear. A lot of you perhaps would not have been able to place the person who asked me the question. I felt I must explain it. And I don't know who that person is also, because I just have his number on my WhatsApp. So I do want, okay, this is Dhruv Mehta. Okay, so Dhruv, is it clear? Have I made myself clear? Yes? Please unmute and speak up. You're free to do so. I think it's so important. This is what I'm missing most of all, that I'm not able to talk to you properly, that you're not responding as much as I want you to, So because artists and lovers, according to him, are creative people, they're constantly evolving and they are truly productive, and they do not know completeness, but dictators like Admiral Toma would be able to section their lives into success and failure and would understand it in a way in which artists and lovers never do. So should I hope I can put a full stop now to what I believe and proceed to other things that we have to do. Now, I'll tell you about phonetics, all that is expected of you, because I know phonetics that you should be in a position to understand what are the 44 sounds in the English language. It's important in order that you understand the mechanism of sound production so that you are also able to produce these sounds the way you are expected to or what is demanded when you are actually talking. So, basically, all that is required is that you familiarize yourself with these 44 sounds. And most of the time, these sounds are common to your other language, your mother tongue as well. So it's not that they are foreign to you or they are alien to you. There are some sounds that you find difficult to pronounce because you don't have them in your own mother tongue. And so mother tongue interference constantly makes it difficult for you to produce those sounds the way you want them to, or the way they are meant to be produced. So, on the one hand, we are not asking you to speak English the way the Englishman speaks the language, right? We have our own brand of Indian English, which is pretty comprehensible all over the world. So, it's not that we want you to speak the English spoken by the Englishman or what is called received pronunciation. That is not the issue. The issue is that you should just know about the mechanism of sound production and you should also be able to identify what are your specific problems, right? So, it's not that you should be able to say, Polly, put the kettle on. That's not the issue, right? That you should be able to say put and Polly and pick up and pebbles and so on. That's not important. But you should not be saying pipti pipe, right? You can't say pipti pipe. So you should be able to say f and v. You should be able to say she and see. If you want to say she is coming, she is coming, you should not be saying she is coming, she is coming. You see, these are gross errors because you are coming in the way of your comprehensibility and your clarity. So it's most important that you should be able to talk and speak in a manner which is comprehensible to all. So, for that reason, we've actually introduced this particular module or this particular section in your syllabus that you should be able to know what is phonetic transcription, how is a particular sound to be produced. So if we go back to what we were saying, 44 sounds. Out of these 44 sounds, we told you that only 24 sounds were consonants and all the rest are vowel sounds. So there are 20 vowel sounds. Now, so far as I am concerned, it's important for me to do the vowel sounds. But before we did the pure vowels, I would want that we just revise the consonant sounds. So that was what somebody had requested amongst you. So, should I do that? Is that what you want me to do? Should I go
Yes,
ahead
ma'am.
and do that?
Yeah,
Yes?
ma'am.
Okay, so I hope that is the consensus. And I'll just go over like what exactly is the phonetic description of each of these sounds. I think I don't know. Maybe I need to just plug in and put the earphones on because when you speak, your voice is very low. I hope I am clear. Right? I don't know. Okay, so there are primarily three things that you need to keep in mind when you give a description of the consonant sounds. You need to be able to say whether it is voiced or voiceless. That is one category. You need to be able to say what is its place of articulation. That is the second category. And finally, you need to be able to say what is its manner of articulation. That is, how is it produced? Place of articulation, where in the mouth is it being produced? And manner of articulation, how in the mouth is it being produced? So these are three categories which help you give a scientific description to way the particular sound is to be produced. So that is why one of the questions which is always asked, or which is routinely asked for phonetics, is okay, give a scientific description of the initial sound in the word zoo, right? So, what is the initial sound? What is the first sound in the word zoo, right? It is z. So, now you have to give a scientific description of z. So, you say that z is a voiced sound because it demands this vibration. You're talking about three labels that you're giving to this sound. So, you say z is voiced. And when you're talking about its place of articulation, you will say that it is alveolar because it demands the blade of your tongue against the alveolar ridge. And then, so far as manner of articulation is concerned, you will say it is a fricative sound because the blade of the tongue comes close to the alveolar ridge, but air is escaping all the time. So if you were to give a three-term label to the sound z, then you know that it will be voiced, alveolar, fricative. So this is a kind of a possible question that can come, which can have multiple choice variants. And I'm just trying to explain to you the kind of questions that are routinely asked and which make phonetics a scoring subject, because it's not rocket science to know exactly what the particular sound is. You just have to give this description to it, and that's it. But most important of all, if you read the word incorrectly, if instead of zoo, you say Jew, then you go entirely wrong. So it's important for you to be able to identify, you should be able to pronounce the word correctly, then isolate the sound, and then give a scientific description to it. So, as I was saying, there are three descriptions or three labels that you need to give each of these consonants sounds. So, please remember, one is identify whether it is voiced or voiceless. Second is what is its place of articulation. And third is what is its manner of articulation. Now, so far as voiced and voiceless is concerned, I'd given you the scientific description initially that it depends on your vocal cords that constitute your voice box or your larynx. So, when you're ordinarily breathing, those vocal cords are held loosely apart. So, there's not a problem. But when those vocal cords come close together, then when the air has to push its way through, like for example, even when you cough, then the air has to push its way through, and there is something which is called a vibration. And you can feel that normally when you think of these words in pairs. So you can understand, like you already have this list in front of you, which is b, b. Let's not talk. Can you let us just go to the initial one? This is Indian English. Nilesh, can you scroll upwards again? Yes, the English consonants. Yes, English consonants. Yes. So we have a p, b, t, d. Then there is k, g. K is very light there. K, g, ch, j, f, v, th, d. I think this is all from I'm very grateful because this is taken from Spoken English by Bansal and Harrison, the book which I've been asking all of you to familiarize yourself, because what I'm teaching is just the first 12 pages, the first 12 pages of that book. So when you think of per b, per is voiceless, b is voiced. D is voiceless, d is voiced. D, d, right? K, g. K is voiceless, G is voiced. Ch is voiceless, J is voiced. P is voiceless, V is voiced. Th is voiceless, D is voiced. S is voiceless, Z is voiced. If you go further, it can come right to the ends, whether it is S, Z, Sh, Y, H, till you reach Sh, Y. You know, till Shaya, you can think of them as voiceless voiced, voiceless voiced, and you can feel the vibration. When you come to her, you know it is voiced. Ma, na, nga. These are the nasal sounds. They are all voiced. La, ra, ya, v. These are the sounds that are left. All of them are voiced. So the initial ones, pa, ba, ta, da, ka, ga, fa, ba, sa, za, ta, da, all of them come in pairs. But when you reach and ma, na, nga, and la, ra, ya, va, all of them are moist. And you should also know that all the vowel sounds are moist. So at the moment, I'm giving you this sort of bifurcation, but it's something that you should be able to demonstrate for yourself as well. Because when you say s, there is no vibration, but you're saying it exactly the same way as when you say z, s, z. Everything is identical. What is happening in the inside of your mouth is absolutely identical. The only thing is that when you say sir, there is no vibration in your vocal cords. And when you say z, there is a vibration. So, as I was saying, the first thing you need to know is the difference between voiced and voiceless. Now, the second thing that, as I was saying, you need to know is what is meant by place of articulation. Now, place of articulation, we have introduced a number of labels. Now, these labels are merely convenient categories to help us understand how a particular sound is produced. Now, it's not necessary for you to get upset about it, right? These may seem to be new to you, but basically they are so helpful, right? Because you're merely saying per b. What are you saying? Per b is bilabial. Why? What is meant by per b being bilabial? Because your two lips are involved. Per b are bilabial sounds because your two lips are involved. Bilabial by itself means, bi means two, labial means lips. So which are the bilabial sounds? Per,
B,
b, m, and w. And you can demonstrate for yourself. You can see for yourself because you're making use of your two lips when you say p, b, m, and w. Now it is strange that ma is supposed to be almost the first sound that a child makes, right? Because he puts his two lips together and separates them, and the sound that comes out is ma. And perhaps that is why it is also the sound for mother and ma and mater. Everywhere, the sound for mother is almost identically ma. It's interesting, right? But it's a bilabial. Similarly, you have w, right? Now, w is also interesting because it's also demanding that your lips are rounded. It's not for per, b, ma, the two lips come together and then they separate. But when you come to w, we still call it bilabial because it requires the rounding of your lips, right? When you say w. And as I told you subsequently, I've already told this to you, I'm merely repeating. But if you make this difference between were as in wine, the wine that you drink in a glass, and the vine, right? Which is a labiodental sound. So that is different. You are able to differentiate between were, as in west, the sun sets in the west, which is a bilabial sound, and the fact that we wear a vest when it is cold. Vest, which is spelled as VEST. So, this is one way in which you can differentiate were from were, but basically, all you need to remember is place of articulation. The first new sound that you need to introduce yourself is to bilabials. Which are the bilabial sounds? B, b, m, and w. Then you have the dental sounds. Now, dental, sorry, let's go to labiodental first. I was also thinking that my memory tells me labiodental comes first. Yes. So, after bilabial, we talk about labiodental. Now, labio, what does it mean? Lip. And dental means teeth. So, what is required? That you put your upper teeth on your lower lip, right? Upper teeth on your lower lip. When you say f, v, f, v, understand that there are only two labiodental sounds in the English language, which is f and v, f, v, because they require, you can see when you put it, when you're trying to utter these sounds, just put your upper teeth on your lower lip, right? Now, if you want to say, like for example, in Hindi, if you try to make this differentiation, you can also say that एक तो when you're talking in Hindi, you can say फल. हम लोग फल खाना पसंद करते हैं. फल, फल. When we are talking about फल, but we can also say फल, right? Fal is also, perhaps fal is more in Urdu, but even in Hindi we put it as with a dot below it becomes fur, right? So you should be able to differentiate between phal and fal. So in the same way, you should also make sure that you don't say 50 instead of 50. You should be able to say fur and not per when you say this particular sound, right? So for that reason, you should remember that per and ver are labiodental sounds. Now, you know that like what is it? Ver, as I was saying, that you know, depending upon which part of the country you come from, often you make errors, which, for example, like ver is often confused with b, right? And you can find it even in names. This is also something which I mentioned before. Like if you're talking about Vishal, a variant of that name, Vishal, is also Bishal, right? If you're talking about Vibhuti Chandra, the variation is also Vibhuti Chandra. So, depending upon what sound comes naturally, more naturally to you, you would have that sound more prevalent in your specific language, and that would sort of interfere in your reproduction of those sounds. So, when you're talking about labiodental, please understand it's just your upper teeth against your lower lip. So, place your upper teeth on your lower lip and push the air out. F, f, v, f, v. Then you come to the dental sounds. Now, dental sounds, again, the way they are spoken in the English language, I have never been able to speak those sounds naturally. right? Because I have to make an effort in order to produce those sounds the way the native speaker speaks them. So we speak of them as dental. The moment we say that these sounds are dental, what we mean is that it's just the tip of the tongue against the upper teeth. Just the tip of the tongue against the upper teeth. Now we find it difficult to utter these sounds, or even I have to make an effort in order to say that, because I would say, like for example, if I say a sound which has the and the, I will say think, I think. I will say I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I am. But the way the native speaker of the language will say, he will just place he will place just the tip of the tongue against the upper teeth, So it will be, I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I am. Think, therefore I am. I don't know how many of you, I suppose all of you are very comfortable with what is available online, and you would be entertaining yourselves on Netflix, I'm sure. And there is this specific web series which goes by the name of The Crown. So if you go and listen to it, I suppose it's about the Queen and so on. And it's the entire story of royalty in the United Kingdom. And when you, but if you listen to it, if you are wanting to understand what is British received pronunciation, you have to listen to that web series. Now if you listen to American films, that particular accent is completely different. But if you wish to understand the English accent and see the variations between the way we speak and the way they speak, you have to listen to that web series. But it's not that I'm advocating that you should learn to speak like them. Please don't do that. Speak your own brand of English, but make sure that you don't make gross errors, phonetic errors by confusing f and v. So, as I was saying, I find it very difficult because this doesn't come uh, naturally to me. I don't say uh, the, 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 the way the Englishman says it. I say, I think, therefore I am. I say, think, the, in the same way as I would reproduce the Hindi sound, thoda. If I want to say, thoda hai, thode ki zarurat hai, that same I will use for think, right? I will use the same that I use for darwaza, right? The. But the way they say it, they will not say they the way I say it. They will say they, those, these, that, this, that, these. Now, I have to make an effort to speak that way, but because it doesn't come naturally to me. So please understand that when you speak the English it is a dental sound in a way that is different from the way we say th and the. So you need to just remember that think and therefore these two words we generally say in our own way, but it's not that we are incomprehensible, we are still comprehensible. But if you say 55, then you are incomprehensible. So you should rectify this further error definitely, even though third may not be so much of a problem, or it doesn't matter, even if it is a problem. Then we go on to the alveolar sounds, right? So when we are talking about the alveolar sounds, we say that it is just the blade of the tongue against the alveolar ridge. Just the blade of the tongue. Now, what is the blade? Just that part which is behind the tip is called the blade of your tongue. Now, if you touch that blade, to your alveolar ridge. What is the alveolar ridge? The ridge surface that you have just above your upper teeth. You can feel it for yourself. So, what are the sounds that we called alveolar? D, D, S, Z, N, L. These are the six sounds which we speak of as alveolar. Basically, when you produce these sounds, what are the two organs of speech involved? It's just the blade of the tongue and the alveolar ridge. So with da, of course, the closure is complete. With sa, it's not so. But what's important is that the blade of the tongue and the alveolar ridge are involved. They either touch each other or come close to each other. Whether what they do depends upon the sound that you want produced, right? So when you're talking about place of articulation, you're talking about something being alveolar, you're talking about Z being alveolar, you know that it's just the blade of your tongue against your alveolar ridge. Now, in the same way, we also speak about post-alveolar. Now, what is post-alveolar? It is behind the alveolar ridge. And that is the place of articulation is always post-alveolar for the sound R, R. When you say R, what is happening? So far as manner of articulation, R can be spoken in different ways, right? In different words. But so far as place of articulation is concerned, for R, it is identical because your tongue is curled backwards against the back of the teeth ridge, right? So you say R, 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 right? You curl your tongue backwards against the back of the teeth ridge. R, R. So that is why there's just one sound which we speak of as post-alveolar, and that is R. So you say it is articulated by the tip of the tongue against the back of the teeth ridge. Now, when we talk about retroflex, now I've not actually talked about retroflex. It is perhaps what I should be talking about in order to help you differentiate the difference between ta and da, the way we speak of it in Hindi and the way it is spoken in English, which is ta, da, which is different, right? So it is articulated. Retroflex is only in Hindi when it is articulated by the tip of the tongue curled back against the front of the hard palate. You know where the hard palate is? If you have the alveolar ridge, above the alveolar ridge, you have the hard palate. So curled back against the front of the hard palate. When you say the Hindi ta, da, ta, da, the way we say ta and da in Hindi, ta, da, that is the way it is spoken in Hindi. Now, so far as we are concerned, retroflex is not one place of articulation that we are concerned with, because we are basically talking with just the 24 consonant sounds that we have in the English language. Now, after alveolar, what I generally talk about is palato alveolar. Now, here too, what was alveolar? Ta, da, sa. No, it was ta, da, sa, za, na, la. Right? These were the alveolar sounds. Now, when you come to palato alveolar, you say that a greater part of your tongue is against the roof of your mouth. So for alveolar, you were merely saying the blade of your tongue is against the alveolar ridge. But now you say, no, not only that, it is the front of the tongue that was against, is also against the hard palate. So basically, you're just saying that a greater part of the tongue is against the roof of your mouth. The blade is against the alveolar ridge, the front is against the hard palate. And which are the palato-alveolar sounds? We have ch, j, sh, y, ch, j, sh, y, ch, j, sh, y. So you can see when you say turda, surza, what is the difference? And when you say ch, j, ch, y, what is the difference? Nothing except that the blade, the portion of the tongue which is against the roof of your mouth is bigger. So it is not limited to just the blade touching the alveolar ridge, it's also the front of the tongue against the hard palate. Now, ch and j, you're familiar with those sounds. You have ch in chest, you have j in jump, right? But what about sh and sh, sh and y? Now, these are important. So, if you're talking about sh, now why is it we make a difference between sir and sh? Some of us are not able to differentiate between sir and sh because we are always talking about the manner, we're talking in the manner that we are accustomed to when we are talking, when we learn our mother tongues. Now, why do we say, like, when we are trying to reproduce the Nepalese speech or the Gurkha speech, we'll constantly say, he says, shab, shab, shab ye karna hai, shab, he's not able to say sahib, he's always saying sh, right? He's not able to say sheet of paper. Now, some of you are able to say sh, and some of you are not able to say sh. Some of you find sir a problem, some of you find sh a problem, depending upon which part of the country you come from. So, supposing you want to say take a seat, right? And you say, you're constantly saying take a sheet, take a sheet, when you actually want to say take a seat. So, there is a difference in meaning between seat and a difference in meaning when you say sheet. You speak of a sheet of paper, and when you sit down, you take a seat. So it's important that you're able to reproduce these sounds correctly. So you know the difference is merely sir. Sir is seat, right? And sir is alveolar. So it's just the blade against the alveolar ridge. But when you say sh, it is not only the blade, but it is also the front of the tongue that you need to place against the hard palate. So a greater part of the tongue is against the roof of the mouth. I think you would all have heard of that tongue twister. She sells seashells on the seashore. She sells seashells on the seashore. She sells seashells on the seashore. How quickly are you able to say she sells seashells on the seashore? Sir and sh. Sir, sh. Sir, sh. She sells seashells on the seashore. So those of you who find it difficult to make this kind of differentiation need to be practicing sir and sh. So you need to know that when you talk about palato-alveolar, the moment you talk about something being palato-alveolar, you know that it is not only the blade of the tongue against the alveolar ridge, it's also the front of the tongue against the hard palate. Now, apart from that, you also need to know, like, for example, if you're talking about palato alveolar, you should know we speak of zh, right? Zh, this sound. Zh, zh, zh. So, this is what you have in words like pleasure, leisure, treasure, you know? Zh, zh. So, how do you say that zh sound? Now, we have so many variations of this word pleasure because we are not able to say this sound correctly. So, when you understand that it is palato alveolar, you may be able to utter this sound correctly. So, you know that um, it is actually, for example, if you saying played her, right, that is incorrect. If you saying plays her, then also it is incorrect. It's neither her nor is it the. What is it? Pleasure, 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 leisure, treasure, seizure, right? And how is it to be produced? You put a greater part of your tongue against the roof of your mouth. In the same way, when you say ch, right? I said there were four palato alveolar sounds: ch, j, sh, y. J, is constantly confused with z, right? So you can't say ju when you want to say zoo. When you say z, it is alveolar. When you say j, it is palato alveolar. Now, this is another mistake that often people have. They're not able to say is, was, because, please, excuse me, right? All these sounds, all these words demand that you utter the z sound. So you should be able to say, excuse me, please, is, was, because. All of them have the z sound. So the moment you confuse it with the j sound, you're merely confusing alveolar with palato alveolar. So when you're thinking of alveolar and palato alveolar, you merely need to make sure that you're not confusing z with j, right? So if you're not saying is, was, you're not saying id, was, right? So be careful about that. Palato alveolar. Then we have what is called palatal sound. Now, what is palatal? This is the sound that you have in yes, yes, yes. Now, here you say that it involves just the front of the tongue against the hard palate. We are not talking about the blade of the tongue at all here. It's just the front of the tongue against the hard palate. So you have just one sound in the English language which we speak of as y, y, y. The phonetic transcription of it is merely the small letter j. What it means is y, 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 yes, yesterday, yet, yell. What are you saying? Y. You're not saying the same sound that you say when you say pleasure, pleasure. You sing y, 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 y as in yesterday, yet, yell. It is amazing the way you differentiate between these different sounds. So if you have a problem, if you're not able to say yes, but you say yes, a lot of people say yes, yes. They're not able to say yes, right? So this you need to understand that this year, this particular year demands merely the front of the tongue being raised towards your hard palate. So that is why it is spoken of as palatal year. Now, in addition to that, we also have what is called a velar sound. So when you're talking about a velar sound, it is the back of your tongue. You forget about the front. The front of the tongue is not important anymore. So what you want is the back of the tongue now. Think, what do you do when you say k, 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 g? Now you need to say something is touching something, but it's not the front of the tongue. So it is the back of the tongue touching the soft palate. So we've divided the roof of the mouth into, okay, the upper teeth first and the alveolar ridge, then the front palate, and then the hard palate, and then the soft palate. The roof of the mouth goes this way. You have the upper teeth, then you have the alveolar ridge, Then you have the hard palate, then you have the soft palate. But when you're talking about your tongue, you speak of tip, blade, front, back. So when you're talking velar, you're trying to say that the back of your is towards the soft palate. When you say get, cost, g, 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 g. When you say get also, g, you speak of the back of the tongue touching the soft palate. So that is why that particular sound is called velar, right? So glottal merely makes an attempt to say that the remaining consonant, you've covered all the other consonants, but the only consonant that remains is h. So when you say h, 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 right, you're actually saying that this particular sound, the place of articulation for this particular sound is the back, is the glottis, you see, right at the back. It is what we speak of as the glottis. It is produced in the vocal cords. So that is how you understand glottal. So is that okay? I hope you're able to understand place of articulation now. And you won't is a few important terms. Because here we've merely identified where in the sound is uttered. But we also need to know the manner of articulation. That is how in the mouth the particular sound is produced. You need to understand that. So how will we go ahead with that? About retroflex is not clear yet. Okay, Vivekanand, this is to do with the Hindi t and the. So it is not, someone wants to join. What is this? Aditya Kharole. You've joined rather late, Aditya. Never late than ever. So what I want to say is turd. Turd. When you say, when you speak in Hindi, it is retroflex. T, t, d, t, t. It is curled back of the teeth. But since these sounds, four sounds that we are talking about, you don't have to consider them. You need to just remember bilabial, labiodental, dental, alveolar, palato alveolar, palatal, velar, what we speak of as r. R, right? These will contain all the 24 consonant sounds, right? So far as Hindi t and d is concerned, you have to curl the tongue, right? And it is what you speak of the front of the hard palate. You curl it to that. That is what creates the t, 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 the way we speak. And that's about the only explanation I can give you. So I hope it is clear to you. It was Vivekanand who spoke, right? Vivekanand?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah?
Yeah, ma'am. Got
Okay,
it.
should I proceed then? Okay. So then,
Yes, ma'am.
when we are talking like this, is we've identified where in the mouth. Now we want to know how in the mouth. So how in the mouth, we've introduced you to other terms. Like, for example, plosives, right? We have plosive. Why is it called plosive? Because it is from explosion. Why is it called explosion? Because there is a complete closure in the mouth. Which are the plosive sounds in the English language? Per, de, ter, de, and kurga. These are the plosive sounds. So why do we speak of them as plosives? Because there is a complete closure in the mouth when we utter these sounds. And the air pressure from the air that is coming out from the lungs and it comes to the mouth cavity, it is obstructed. It is not allowed to escape. And then when that complete obstruction is removed, then the air escapes with what they speak of as a mini explosion, right? You speak of it as an explosion. It becomes a plosive sound, right? So that is why it is called plosive, right? So you say, like for example, uh, like when you're saying anything which begins with p, if you want to say pick up, pick up, the way we speak, of course, it will be p. The way the Englishman speaks, he will aspirate it, he will say pick up. But let's not go into that. At the moment, all you need to know is for per b. For per b, it is the two lips that come together. So we speak of them as bilabial plosives. For ter, what happens? Ter, it is the blade of the tongue. Ter, blade of the tongue against the alveolar ridge, right? When we say ter. So there too, there is a complete closure. There's a complete closure and then a sudden separation. Similarly for kurg, what is causing the closure is actually, we know kurga are velar sounds. So far as the place of articulation is concerned, kurga is velar, right? So it is the back of the tongue against the soft palate when you say kurga. But what is important so far as manner of articulation is concerned, that this is a plosive sound because there's a complete closure, which is causing a complete obstruction of the airstream. And then when these organs of speech separate, the air escapes with an explosion. So basically, what we are saying is that per b are bilabial plosives. Bilabial gives a place of articulation. Plosive gives a manner of articulation. We are saying ter, de are alveolar plosives because alveolar is the place of articulation and plosive is the manner of articulation. We know that for both ter and de, it is the blade of the tongue which comes into contact with the alveolar ridge, causing a complete closure. Because it's a complete closure, the air escapes with an explosion, and that is why they're called plosive sounds. Similarly, for kurga, what is the place of articulation? Velar. So it's the back of the tongue which is coming in contact with the soft palate, causing a complete closure. Then the organs of speech separate and the air escapes with an explosion. So that is how you can understand plosive sounds. But after plosives, the next thing that we do is affricate. And affricate sound is very similar to plosive because here too there is a complete closure. It's over. What did you say? It's over. What is over? The class is over, you're saying. Okay. You're talking about the class being over? Okay. Okay. So I'll just take 5 minutes and just give me, I'll just round it up. So basically, we're talking about affricate sounds, ch and j. Ch and j are very similar to plosives because there's a complete closure. But so far as affricates are concerned, while there is a complete closure, there is a gradual separation of the organs of speech involved. So for per, ber, ter, der, kurger, there is a sudden separation. But for Churja, while there is a complete closure, complete obstruction of the airstream, there is a there is a gradual separation. So that is affricate. So apart from that, you also need to know about the fricative sounds, which are the largest in number, the nasal sounds, and the lateral sound and the semi-vowel. So these are the other terms that you need to familiarize yourself. I'll just go over them very swiftly when we meet again. But basically, I'm going to focus only on vowel sounds. I perhaps don't require more than two more classes for me to cover the vowel sounds as well as the remainder of the manner of articulation. So I hope I've made myself very clear to you. And also, I do want that you should familiarize, because this document which Nilesh has been sharing with us is from Bansal and Harrison, spoken English, and it also has all the phonetic symbols for each of these sounds. So I want you to familiarize yourself with these symbols so that phonetic transcription, if you're given any word in English, you should be able to represent it phonetically, indicating that you know how to pronounce it correctly. So that will round up exactly what we are doing for phonetics. So in addition, now we have the one poem only that we need to cover. I can go over Stopping by Woods again if you have anything to say about it. But basically, we want to do The Unknown Citizen, and we want to do the short story, which is O. Henry's Gift of the Magi. And then, apart from that, we have to cover anything that you want me to do so far as grammar is concerned. And yes, we have to do a bit of theory so far as communication is concerned. The theory of communication is concerned. I do want to hear you speak, each one of you. I wanted you to make a presentation. Let's hope that's going to be possible. And perhaps it would be a good idea for me to give you a slot. So if you all are available on Friday next, I would want, let me just say this now, because it'll never happen otherwise. So if the first 10 roll numbers come prepared with some presentation, any topic of yours, if you just want to speak about it, I think at least you could get the exposure. You would be able to speak up. So next Friday, I just want that the first 10 roll numbers, starting 1 to 10, you are able to speak for just 2 minutes on any topic of your choice. That is what I would require. That would make the English for communication exactly what it was meant to be, and not just limited to me speaking and you all passively listening. So thank you very much, all of you. Okay?
Thank
So
you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
you all wanted me
Thank you,
to get
ma'am.
lost. So, okay. Bye bye, and
Thank you,
thank you
ma'am.
very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
So we'll meet you again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Right? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.